meeting. I- So I am calling this meeting to order, Kathy Gleason, for the April 2nd, 2026 meeting. And I'm not able to view all of the participants. I apologize. It's glitchy on my part, I guess. But thank you so much for attending. And so the first item of business is calling this to order and introducing the board of directors. Karen Pletnikoff is our vice president, and Chris Habich is our secretary. Our treasurer is Sandy Rabinowitz, and our two at-large board members are Jonathan Galen and John Isaacs. So thank you so much for all of you for serving. So could I have a motion to approve the agenda that was sent out, I believe, yesterday, um, so that we can move forward?
So move.
Thank you, Jonathan. Can I have a second?
Kathy, this is Karen. I'll second. Oh,
Thank you,
sorry.
Karen. Okay, is there any objection? Okay, has passed. So now the first item is to approve the minutes of the March 5th, 2026 meeting. So could I have a motion to approve the minutes? And thank you, Chris, to drafting these every month.
I move to approve the minutes of the March 5th meeting.
Second.
Okay, is there any objection? Okay.
How you doing, Chris?
If we find any errors or any small items, we'll go back in and change, but otherwise the March 5th, 26 minutes are approved. Okay. Okay, let's see. So moving on, announcements, and I'll start out with I've got about 4 of them, and then I'll open it up to the floor to see if anybody else wants to share anything. So on April 10th, that's the deadline for the Anchorage Park Foundation Challenge Grant applications, and there is a specific project that is on our agenda to discuss more in depth. But just FYI, that deadline is coming up. So Turnagain Community Council has in the past submitted an application by our council, but we are not this year. But there are Turnagain residents that are doing two different, that we know of, at least 2 projects within our area. So that's great. Let's see, on April 22nd, these may not be in order of calendar wise, but on April 22nd, there is a Anchorage Transportation Fair at the Alaska Airlines Center. This is a yearly gathering where projects all over the city, you've got planners, consultants, municipal people there to answer questions and provide information about transportation projects, both motorized and non-motorized, and people mover. So it's a great place to go and find out much more about what's going on. And on April 14th, the planning department, the municipal planning department, is holding an open house at the library, Lusac Library lobby area, just to inform the public about recent code changes, municipal Title 21 code changes, plan implementation, and other ongoing projects. So if you're interested in that, mark your calendar. And then also on July 27th, the Anchorage Park Foundation and the Anchorage Parks Department are co-sponsoring these concert in the park events. And occasionally they do have one in Turnagain, and they have one scheduled for Balto Sepulveda Park on June 25th. And so for those of you who like to go to those and hear some free music, and there's usually vendors that sell refreshments and that sort of thing, that's a really good time to enjoy our parks in a unique way. So does anybody else have any announcements they would like to share? And since I can't see all of you, I apologize. Just help me out, Dan, if there's anybody that's got their hand raised. If not, we'll move on. Okay. On the agenda is new in Turnagain, and the board has put this in place for about 5 minutes. We don't have a lot of time, but for about 5 minutes, if there are people here joining us this evening that have not participated in previous Turnagain Community Council Zoom meetings or meetings in any other way, welcome. And if you would like, just take about 20 seconds to introduce yourself and what part of Turnagain you live in, if you'd like to share, and any other thoughts that you want to share briefly. So again, I'd like help with anybody raising their hands, to identify anybody raising their hands. Karen?
Are you answering to me?
Yeah, go ahead, Karen.
I know there's more than one Karen. So I'm Karen,
Sorry, Karen McBride. So please introduce yourself.
and I have
Thank you.
two friends, neighbors with me, and Nancy Stauber
Yes,
is here with me. I can kind of show you Nancy.
I live on Lakeshore Drive, right in I get the blunt of the water.
And
Hello,
then,
Nancy.
Hello.
and then this is, tell me your name.
Fred.
Fred. This is Fred, Nancy's brother-in-law. So we just joined tonight briefly to see what is happening at the council and to share our concerns about the water at 44th and Beechcraft.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Anybody else want to share? Marcy, yeah. I don't have your last name on the Zoom, so if you can provide that, I would appreciate it.
Hi, everybody. I'm Marcy Rosenberg. Coincidentally, today is the first year anniversary of my moving here to Anchorage from Phoenix, Arizona.
Well, good for you. You turned north.
Yeah, it's just the same, said no one ever. I moved here because my daughter met her husband in college 10 years ago in Arizona. He's from here. They've been here 8 years. I've been visiting. She had her third boy about a month after I arrived, so he's almost a year old. And this is my next chapter. I'm loving it. I have absolutely, this was the total right decision. I'm not a homeowner yet. I am living though in the Turnagain neighborhood. I'm at 35th Avenue and Arrow. I'm a retired urban planner, so I'm really familiar with a lot of, how the process works. I don't know the specifics of Turnagain or exactly how Anchorage, works, but I'm a quick study, and I would really I'm happy to be involved in the new place I call home. I am interested in you have a land use and permit subcommittee, I believe, and if there are projects that are being, or proposals or applications, I'm happy to lend my expertise and reviewing those and getting to know folks in the neighborhood.
Thanks,
Well,
Marcy.
that sounds great, Marcy. We typically do follow more than one project in our land use committee meeting typically, and some for long term. So we'd love to have you participate at that level. Is
Kathy,
there
Aaron's
anybody
got
else?
his hand up.
Yeah, Aaron,
Sorry, Karen.
Aaron.
Oh,
Hi, Aaron.
oh, Aaron. Okay. I saw you before. There you are.
Hi, everybody. My name's Aaron Raybuck. My wife and I live in the Turnagain area. We've been there for a number of years. We've got a home on Warrensoff, and I've been interested in Alaskan politics for a while now. Just my schedule hasn't allowed me to really get active in it in any meaningful way. When I started to kind of share this interest in my personal network. A few years ago, I had a couple recommendations to, a great way to sort of enter politics in a meaningful way would be to start with my local community council. And so, you know, I'm here tonight just to kind of listen and to, try to understand, what the sort of the mechanisms or how this community council works and, what are its, things that it does, et cetera. So, I don't know that I'll have the bandwidth to be on these Thursday meetings as much as I would like, but I just wanted to say hello and state, see what this council's about. So thanks for inviting me to speak. Appreciate it.
Well, thank you, Aaron. Welcome. And
Thank you.
we really appreciate any interest that you have in the council, and we are one of the more active councils within the municipality.
Hey, Kathy,
Everybody can attest to that. Yes, Jonathan.
I'm on the board, Aaron. I'm on Warrensoff Drive. I'll give you my phone number if you want to chat.
Okay, thank you. Okay,
Yeah, if you wanna
anybody
just
else?
shoot me a message in chat.
Well, I'll just give you the phone number right now. I don't care who knows about it.
Okay, everybody write this down really fast.
Hold on. I don't have a pen.
Oh,
All right, I'll put it in the
Yeah,
chat.
well, my-
yeah,
Okay.
you can put it in
Thank
the
you.
chat.
Okay.
Thank you so
Go
much,
ahead,
Aaron.
Kathy.
Welcome.
Go ahead, Kathy.
Thanks, Jonathan. Anybody else before we move on? Okay, if not, then great. We're glad to have new people involved. Okay, so now we'll start our board report, and this is usually fairly lengthy, but we'll try and get to it since you'll get a feel, the newcomers will get a feel on so much of what we follow on the board and both that we do at that level. So first of all, our next tentative TCC board meeting is April 30th. However, husband Dan and I are planning to go to Seattle. We haven't picked a departure date, but over that weekend. And so once we make our plans, I'll let the board know, and that may change. But right now it's April 30th. And then our next general meeting via Zoom is on May 7th. So we always meet the first Thursday of the month, with the exception of January, when we don't meet until the second Thursday. So now just items that we are following, have covered, if there's any updates. So one of them is the Anchorage Park Foundation Challenge Grant, which I had mentioned. The deadline is April 10th. And just FYI, the Romig Hill Trail Improvements grant application was submitted with TCC support. And so thank you to Chris Havich and Mark Larson, and I see that I saw Mark. So and Mark Dalton, and was Mike Bronson also involved in this project? Oh, Mike wasn't. Okay. So thank you to you three guys for really spearheading this project. And it's something that we hope a grant will be provided by the Park Foundation so that there can be some improvements on the Romig Hill trails that wander down that slope between north of the West Romig campus and down to Westchester Lagoon. So thank you again to you guys for doing that. We really appreciate it. And like I said, there's also another project that is on our agenda that will also be applying for a grant application that we've been informed about. So just FYI, the Heritage Land Bank 2020 plan, program and 5-year plan that TCC follows every year and submits comments. I just included it on there because the Assembly has approved it, but we want to continue to follow up on some of the things that we provided in that plan, and specifically about the parcels of land in West Anchorage that were the state committed to transfer to the municipality in 1986, and that still hasn't happened. And probably one of the most obvious ones is Little Campbell Park is still it's being managed by the municipality, but it still is under state ownership. And that's just one example of a series of parcels that really need to get transferred. So we don't want to forget about continuing to work on that. Then I have an update to, I had announced before the meeting that there was some interest in acquiring a parcel of land that had belonged to Tom Dreyer. He actually was a former TCC president and active member back a while back, and unfortunately he passed away. But his estate, he owned land, a strip of land that has Fish Creek running through it south of Northern Lights. And so Great Land Trust has been involved with negotiations, and the nonprofit organization Friends of Fish Creek, with Karen Button as the chair, has done a lot of work on this. And so the update to that is the Friends of Fish Creek board did pass a resolution officially. And so they are now, working with the municipality and all the other entities to go through the hoops that will need to be done for that acquisition to take place, that will be temporarily owned by Friends of Fish Creek. And that's Mike Bronson and his wife. Is it Katie or? Oh, I apologize for not knowing that right off the top, but they have donated money to purchase that parcel. And then husband Dan and I, with no connection to Turnagain Community Council, no Turnagain Community Council hat on, but Dan and I have also offered to donate any other expenses beyond that, closing costs and so forth, because we really feel strongly that that should become part of municipal parkland in that area. So Friends of Fish Creek will own it temporarily, with the intent, if all the hoops are met with the muni, that it be transferred then to the Municipal Parks Department and get vacated. So that was pretty exciting news that that's moving forward. Also, Fish Creek Trail Connection Working Group, that's a new trail has been underway for quite some time, and is at about 75% design between Northern Lights north to the Coastal Trail along the railroad right-of-way. That project is moving forward, but what's happening right now is there's a working group dealing with aesthetic features and interpretive signage and that sort of thing. And John Isaacs and Sandy Rabinowitz and myself are representing TCC on that working group, and the third meeting is on April 28th. So hopefully that will move forward with our discussion about what kind of amenities, and there's going to be a giant retaining wall. So we spent a lot of time at the last meeting kind of chatting about what might be appropriate for that area. So if you have any questions, contact any of the three of us and we can fill you in on that.
Yeah, Amanda has her hand up.
Amanda has her hand up.
Thank you. I cannot see you, Amanda. I apologize. Thank you, Amanda. Go ahead.
No problem. I just wanted to understand that parcel of land to look at being part of the Fish Creek Park. I was confused. The state was wanting to donate it, or the state is selling it and those funds are going to the person's estate. I'm just confused about the intent and then the donation, if there's a donation or not.
Sure. Thanks, Amanda. And yeah, so this was land that Tom and I'm probably his wife or family had owned. And unfortunately, he passed away. I think it's been a couple of years ago or so. He had in his, estate that would be donated to the municipality with the intent of adding it to, the other parklands that would be contiguous. There's about 3 different parks. Not Fish Creek Park, that's down farther south, but there's Old Hermit Park and Little Park and one other park that where it would be contiguous. And so the intent would just be to add that into the park system, and then, just enlarge an area that would not be developed, not be any structures be built on it, that sort of thing. No trails, nothing, because it's fairly.
Got it. Well, I was just, I don't
so
understand the money or the funds then that are needed if the donation.
Yeah, the Bronson family, it has donated the asking price. The estate has a fiduciary responsibility. They couldn't just donate it to the municipality because there's heirs of that estate. And so the municipality, they had an asking price of $50,000, and the Bronsons are donating that to be able to purchase that parcel. And like I said, then when husband Dan and I found out about it, Karen and I talked, she said there would be other costs as well because of just, other things that will need to be done, closing costs and so forth. And so Dan and I privately, not connected with the council, we have offered to donate the balance of that. And so after all the hoops are jumped through, then it will be transferred to the municipality as dedicated parkland. Presumably that has to be approved by the assembly, but we're hoping that won't be a problem. So does that clarify kind of for you, Amanda, what the situation is?
Okay, so yeah, because it's a tract of land that was for sale. I saw that parcel, and then that someone wants to buy that and then donate it to the Fish Creek Foundation. Got it.
So yeah, it's a work in progress, but it's moving along well. And it was a big milestone for that nonprofit, Friends of Fish Creek, to agree to go ahead, and there will be an environmental phase 1 assessment that has to look for contaminated soils. The municipality won't accept anything that if it has contaminated soils. So that's going to be done this summer. And assuming that comes out negative, then that's just another step forward for the process to move.
Okay, great. We've got a huge agenda, Kathy. So
I'm sorry, what?
we've got a huge agenda tonight.
Yeah,
So
okay. So the next item under board report is the Anchorage Wetlands Management Plan. There's a phase 1 update, and it goes before the Planning and Zoning Commission on April 20th. So initially, and last time it was updated was, I believe, 2014, and Turnagain Community Council provided a lot of input and got involved in that process. So assumed once we heard about an update, we would do the same thing. But the reason why it's under board report only is because I contacted the person who is overseeing this, and I apologize, Michael, if you're listening at all. I may not pronounce your last name correctly, but he's a long-range senior planner for the department, and it's Michael Bobbio. And I talked with him, and he said, this is kind of a pro forma first step. It's not really that big of a deal as far as getting a council involvement. So he said the scope of phase 1 is focusing primarily on making textual corrections throughout the plan. It also reassigns implementation and oversight responsibilities to better reflect the current municipal structure and capacity for implementation. And it also revises the plan process diagram to reflect current practices following the discontinuation of the U.S. Army Corps of Engineer General Permit after 2021. So what it doesn't do, it does not change the wetland designation of any wetland that still exists and hasn't been filled since the last plan. It does not change wetlands mapping, but it does not change management strategies and enforceable policies. So just felt like this was a good time to just get people informed about what's happening with this phase 1, but it's nothing that we'll probably follow and take action on unless the body deems otherwise. So that's an update on that. And Minnesota Drive Sidewalk Repair Project, the AMATS project that's being funded with mostly state money, but there was a presentation to our council, I believe, back in September, October. And they would like to come again at our June meeting. So that project will be something that you can look forward to get updates on that. And also the Minnesota Drive and INL Streets Corridor Plan. There is a public workshop on April 14th at the Lusac Library, 4th floor from 5:30 to 7. And Turnagain has been following that. I attended the last working group meeting on behalf of Turnagain Community Council. We had previously submitted concerns about some of the initial proposals, like roundabouts at Minnesota Drive and Northern Lights in Benson. Those ideas have been rejected, but still in the queue. They're potentially proposing reducing Minnesota Drive from 6 lanes to 4 lanes so that there's more room to add non-motorized user amenities. And so it's the kind of thing that we still want to follow, but this public open house on the on let's see, what did I say that was? The open house is on April 14th. So be sure, if you're interested in that, be sure and attend, and TCC will continue to follow that. CIP project ranking. This is something that the municipality has all community councils do every year. And we always form an ad hoc committee to look into the project list that they propose and the project list that we approved the previous year. And then we'll want to present in May because comments or the rankings are due on June 1st. So when I announced this at our meeting last month, let's see, I think only, oh dear, let's see. I think Karen and myself volunteered to serve on that ad hoc committee, but I'm not sure I caught everybody. So now is the time to volunteer. We'll be meeting sometime this month, this month. And because our next meeting is May 7th. So Karen, do I have Karen Pletnikoff? You want to serve on this? Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, great. And myself and Dan Gleason, did you want to serve on that? I think you said you
Yeah.
did.
Yes.
And is there anybody else that wants to make that initial review before we present our recommendations at our May 7th meeting? And I cannot see everybody's hands, so anybody else want to participate in that? We'd love to have you. Okay, this is Matt claiming he'll be calling around 7:45. Okay. If anybody else is interested, just let me know. Otherwise, looks like the 3 of us will be meeting and coming up with recommendations for our next regular meeting. And I apologize to Matt Clayman. I didn't see what was in the chat. So let me just get Senator Clayman in probably right now, if that's okay with everybody, and then we'll go back to FCC delegate report. So
I don't see him yet, Kathy.
Oh,
Carly's
okay,
here
so-
though.
This is Carly from Senator Clayman's
Oh,
office.
Carly.
He'll be in closer to 7:30, 7:45, if that's okay.
Right,
Oh, okay,
that's what
okay.
I heard, so, okay,
I
thanks,
apologize.
Carly.
Yeah, okay,
Yes.
well then I'll just continue on with the last part of the board report, and that's Federation of Community Councils. For those of you who are newer, Federation of Community Councils is a nonprofit organization that provides support and assistance to all 35 or so community councils within the municipality of Anchorage, Turnagain being one of them. And we are going through a major process now. Right now, I'm the delegate that has been attending on behalf of Turnagain, and there are some major bylaws revisions that are taking place right now. And so we have been submitting input on those. And we had our last meeting on Tuesday. It was a Zoom only meeting where amendments from various community councils were considered. And some were modified, some thumbs up, some thumbs down. We voted on a fair amount. Turnagain Community Council had submitted numerous ones. To be honest, I wasn't feeling well that evening and I didn't have time to prep. So I didn't take very good notes on kind of how ours fared, but it wasn't good. I know at least maybe 3 of them failed, and 1 or 2 others passed, and there were also a lot of amendments on ones that passed. So FCC is going to provide councils a more detailed list of what took place Tuesday tomorrow. So if anybody is interested in the details of that, please let me know and I'll be happy to share if you make sure I have your email address. And if anybody shares that information in the chat, I would ask one of my board members to make sure you make a note of it, because I can't track as well by chairing the meeting. But the main thing is that ever since that organization was formed, it was every delegate was a board member of this nonprofit organization. The new structure will be that the board will have a lot fewer board members. There will be officers and maybe a few board members that will be elected by the rest of the delegates. But then the delegates are just members of the nonprofit FCC. We will not be voting board members, those of us who wouldn't engage in running for office or a board member position. It's a pretty big step and change. So just FYI on what's going on with that.
Kathy?
Yes.
Yeah, this is John. I just wanted to add a couple comments, having sat in on the first meeting and part of the
Yes.
second meeting. I think there were sort of 3 things going on. My observations of having looked at the changes, and you've explained them a bit, is it kind of removes the delegates from having direct voting interaction on things with FCC. And part of the reason for the bylaws is I think a number of people felt that that was unwieldy and it took up too much time of the the delegate meetings when they'd rather be talking about other things. It does remove community councils from some direct decisions that they used to have, and so it kind of dilutes that a little bit. One of the other changes that they made is that the board members did not have to be an active community council delegate, and so if someone had been a delegate from a community council, they were elected to the board, and the community council changed the delegate and came up with a new delegate, that person would still be able to hold that office for up to 24 months. And, there was some discussion Kathy and some others made on that. And kind of the pushback was, well, it's hard to get board members. And if people are doing a good job, we want to allow them to keep a good job. And there's too many changes with community council. So there wasn't much sympathy for our amendments. I would say the votes on them kind of were 2-1 against the amendments. And I think a big factor in that is a number of people were just really tired of continuing to talk about the bylaws and they wanted this done. So I think.
Yeah. Thanks, John. Yeah, we've been working on this for a whole year. So it's been a tedious process for sure.
Yeah, so that was my observation. I see that Amanda has her hand up too.
Yeah, go ahead, Amanda.
You're on mute.
Amanda, did you want to share something?
Yes, sorry, my phone is on the fritz here. But I just wanted to thank you, Kathy and John, for really looking into those for us. And just because this is, it is a lot of changes, but I just really appreciate you, Kathy, especially putting forward those amendments and, with your long experience on these councils and just speaking up for the local council voice. I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you, Amanda, and thank you for participating as well on drafting our amendments, and John as well. And it'll be a big change. That's kind of the bottom line. And a lot of councils think it's great, so we can we meet monthly and we can spend more time not being board of directors of a nonprofit, but to do good council work and collaborate with other councils on things that matter. And so that was kind of in a nutshell. I know one of our amendments only failed by 4 votes. I don't recall which one that was. But yeah, otherwise they didn't fare as well as we'd hoped, but I think you summed it up pretty well, John, on everybody's just ready to move on at this point. With regard to other things, FCC, We did meet on the delegates met on March 18th, and we did spend a fair amount of time talking about bylaw amendments. There was someone from the mayor's office, or excuse me, there wasn't somebody from the mayor's office, but we were notified that now somebody from the mayor's office will be assigned to each community council. So we'll have a direct, oh, that's the person we contact now. And I may have heard this through the grapevine, but I'm not positive. I think the person that will Turnagain was assigned to is Nora's, but I'm not positive, and we haven't gotten any kind of official information on that. Anna Brawley, our sitting assembly member, vice chair, she provided an overview about everything that's going on with the assembly at that meeting. So there wasn't any school board report. So like I said, most of it was focused on the bylaws. And so we had a special Zoom meeting on Tuesday, the 31st, and more amendments can be submitted by next Monday, the 6th, and then we'll be discussing those amendments at our upcoming April meeting, which is it's the third Wednesday of the month. I think it's the 15th. So anybody else have anything they want to ask about FCC? Okay, so we'll move on to reports. So do we have somebody from the mayor's office? And again, I apologize, I can't see who all is attending. Is there anybody from the mayor's office that wants to provide a brief report? No one from mayor's office, okay. Presumably when there is somebody that is appointed to each council, that person hopefully will start attending our meeting. So let's see, assembly report. So Anna Brawley, are you with us this evening?
Kathy, I think she sent a note saying that she might be tuning in somewhere around 7:15. I'll have to see if I can find that.
Okay, thank you. We'll just go to is Keith Bruce here for Representative Carolyn Hall? Could move on to legislative report for Carolyn Hall if he's
Hi,
joined in.
can you hear me?
Yes, hi Keith, welcome. So
Hi.
appreciate you joining in. And I have to apologize because I know you attended our March meeting to present, and our meeting got a little bit convoluted and moved around, and you were never called on. And I so appreciate, I'm so apologetic for that. And I'm glad you didn't take it personally and you decided to join us this month anyway. So
No worries. No worries. This has been a really busy time for our office in the legislature right now because we have so many personal bills moving through. See if I can remember them all off the top of my head. We have a bill on travel insurance, a bill. We just had a resolution pass the floor acknowledging the role dispatchers play in our emergency services. And we've had lots of business across labor and commerce. Yeah, it's been a very busy session. We're monitoring the budget right now, and we're working with a lot of our work's focused in the House resources with the governor's bill using gas line property tax. Happy to answer any more questions about our work that you guys have.
okay, does anybody have any questions for Keith?
Hi, Keith. This is Amanda. Thanks for coming tonight. And just once again, I'm out of school week to see a lot of new tax bills going through. So I think I understand the representative's current position, but what do you guys feel like you're doing to get input from these more low and middle income student or families for input on these tax bills?
Well, we had all the results from our West Side survey in late February, early March, which we thought gave us some insight. We have a lot of constituents visit our office to speak about education taxes and funding or tax-related funding issues. But yeah, I mean, if you have more ideas or more people we can reach out to, we're always looking for more input.
Okay, thanks. I'll send them to the office.
Thank you.
Okay, anybody else have any questions? Again, I apologize, I can't see everybody, so help me out, board, and Dan, Karen, anybody else is raising their hand?
I do not see anybody.
Okay, well, thank you. Dan. Please give our regards, and thanks to Representative Carolyn Hall for all of the work that's being done down in Juneau right now, and we look forward to more information and things that hopefully will be positive for our West Anchorage community and also the city as a whole. So if we don't have Matt Clayman yet, is that correct? He has not joined us yet.
It's supposed to be another 15 or 20 minutes, Kathy.
Okay, and then also we don't have Anna Brawley yet. Is that correct?
I don't see her.
Yeah.
Okay. Lex, are you with us to provide an airport report?
I don't see Lex either.
Wow.
Nope, Lex isn't here, but I am. This is
Terry
Jennifer
Elizabeth is on.
Pepin with
Oh.
ANC.
Okay, thank you, Jennifer. I appreciate you joining us this evening.
Yeah, not a problem. Glad to be here. So for Lex's update, ANC has just finished our master plan update and it's published to our website. So if you're interested to see where we're going to be going in the next 10, 20, 30 years, that's on our website. Aviation Day is Friday, May 1st from 10 to 4, and Alaska Airlines is hosting it at the Alaska Airlines hangar. So if you are interested, schools can sign up for it. If you're under 18 and not attending with a school or a nonprofit group, they do ask that you're accompanied by a parent or guardian. And then let's see, what else do we have going on? There will be an upcoming Lakehood user group meeting in end of April, maybe mid-May. We don't have a specific time and place yet, but when we get that, we will go ahead and send that out to you all. And then April 21st, we have our honor flight for the Alaska veterans. It takes about 24 veterans to Washington, D.C., and then they will return back on April 25th. We are still working on our Part 150 noise study. We had a meeting in February for the advisory committee. And then I don't think there's another meeting planned at this time, but more information to come up on that. There is a link to a website on our webpage also for that. Parking updates. So this summer, if you're traveling or even this spring, we ask you to come early, plan ahead to find parking. We realize that has been a premium lately here at the airport. And so this summer we do have a project, which I'll talk about here in a minute, for our park, ride, and fly lot, which is right close to the Central Region DOT building. We'll be expanding that park, ride, and fly lot to add some additional spots there. But really, come early, plan ahead to try to find parking. Also look to private options like Diamond Parking and Alaska Airport Parking. And then also don't forget about our North Terminal. It's a little bit of a walk, but it's a good place to park too. So that is that. And then I also have our is it okay if I share?
Absolutely. Go ahead.
Let's see. I might need to be smarter than the average bear.
Can't provide any text.
Oh, here we go.
Yeah.
I found it. Here we go. All right, so this is what we have planned for construction for this summer. So we'll go ahead and start with the first one is our taxiway R North and taxiway U improvements. It's the red here. So there's some pavement, some lighting going on there. Our next one is our terminal water main, which is the light green around our terminals. We're going to be it's called slip lining, so we're going to be working on our water lines to give them more life. Our biggest project is our taxi lane echo and mic improvements. It's the yellow one here. And so that one's going to be an all summer one. It's going to impact our cargo parking. We have some temporary parking spots around the airport to make up for some of those areas, but really that's the biggest project that we have going on this summer. It's a carryover from last year. And then we will also be working on, let's see, we've got some rehab, our hard sand rehabs here in the blue with the number 4. And then also, again, over here at the North Terminal with number 8. We have our taxiway K Tug Road, the dark blue over here. We'll be repaving that. And our auxiliary parking lot, so this dark blue over here by Lake Hood, this is the area where we'll be adding some additional parking to our park, ride, and fly lots. Around our parking area, specifically the hot pink, this is some pavement rehabilitation for around our for the entrance and exits to our parking lots. At Lake Hood, we will be doing this is a 2-year project, so we're going to be starting over here at the north end. We'll be repaving and providing some temporary parking as we move through a phasing of the repaving and striping in this area. And then the following year, we'll come down here to the Alpha parking that's right here where this 9 is here. And then next winter, we will be removing the fencing, the east boundary fence in the lime green. So those are our projects that we have for this year. Is there any questions?
Kathy, I have a question.
Go ahead, Jonathan, excuse me, Jonathan.
Yes, Jennifer, what is the disposition of the major project to the west side of the north-south runway, the major amount of new commercial buildings that are being built, and what is happening with that? We haven't heard much about that since we had a discussion about it multiple times last fall.
Right. So we have 2 developments that are happening on the west side of the north-south runway.
Right.
So there's one is a tenant development, and that's going to occur down here by the fuel tank farm. They're still in the permitting process. So they're hoping to break ground this year with being completed. I want to say late this fall, but it might be next spring. I would have to double check their schedule for construction. And then we have what we call is our ANC West Cargo Expansion Project. And so that will be putting 4 hard stands between Taxiway Tango, which is right here, like it would be in this area, but obviously not on the taxiway or runway, but over here.
You know,
right. Have we addressed we had some concerns regarding the north major construction project regarding very large airliners, freight liners being parked over the taxiway and the apron over critical infrastructure, pipelines, gas lines, and so forth. What is happening with that?
So oh, I'm sorry, please continue.
No, go ahead.
Okay. Um, so we are still in our infancy. We're waiting for our first set of design documents to for what we're hoping to build in this area. Once we get those, then at that point the utility companies will start to discuss with us impacts to their utilities, work that we have to do. There is not a fuel line up there on the west side of Taxiway Yankee. So what we do have is obviously we have water, power, calm. We've got some nav aids, those kinds of things. So as we continue to work through the design of those, after we get our initial design documents, then we start initiating conversations with the utilities and
I
start.
was under the impression, John, help me if I'm wrong, but that there was a major, that there was a pipeline or fuel line and gas line, uh, critical infrastructure in that vicinity over where this was going to be built.
So there
there's
is one that runs between the north-south runway and Taxiway Yankee. There is not one currently in the location of where we're building.
And so this was a concern about the private tenant project, not the West Air Park, but the one uh, near the fuel tank farm. And I don't know if that's what you're talking about, Jennifer, that we received a letter saying there was some concern about parking aircraft over fuel lines in that area.
Right. So they, as they're moving through their permitting process, they are responsible for coordinating with those utilities, same as what we would be responsible for. And so we are waiting to get those documents and information from the tenant and their coordination with all of the utilities in that area. So there is fuel lines down there, but there is infrastructure, usually pavement over other fuel lines within the airfield itself. And so it's not uncommon to have hard stands or taxiways over those kinds of utility infrastructures, including the pipelines. They just have to meet their minimum standards.
And I think one other question was that Terry Lindseth had indicated to us that this was going to be done as a categorical exclusion for NEPA compliance.
It is.
And have you seen, has a CADX been completed and submitted? Have you seen that yet?
It is not. We are working with them to get that reviewed before it's ready to be submitted to FAA.
Yeah, and we would
But
love
they
to
have
have
not yet.
We would love to have a chance to see that if possible.
So, excuse me. Sorry, John. I couldn't quite hear your question. What area were you referring to?
Here, I'll show you.
Go ahead, Jennifer. You can go ahead and show that area. It's over by the tank farm. Yeah.
It's in this general area.
And
You're a little bit muted, John.
Okay, let's see. We had that's where we had received a letter from, I think it was Mike Schechter, indicating some concerns in there.
Yeah, the attorney you're talking
Yeah,
about.
that's the attorney. And then Terry Linseth had responded to some questions indicating that there was likely to be a categorical exclusion for the NEPA compliance for that. And so it sounds like what Jennifer said is that has not been completed or submitted yet. And I just said that that's something that, Turnagain Community Council would probably like to see.
Right.
They've addressed.
Absolutely. Thanks, John.
This is Terry Linseth. I'm on the call too, and we will I will forward that request to the team, and I'll get back to you, John.
Great.
Thank you, Terry.
Thank you, Terry.
Yep.
And also this development map and project list to provide that so that we can share it.
Yes, I will send you a copy of this.
Okay. That would be easier to follow along.
Okay.
I did have two other update questions that either Jennifer and Terry could answer. One of them has to do with the West Air Park, and I know somewhere along the line, there will be some public participation. And I think one of the things that was being looked at as part of that West Air Park was relocating the road, um, existing road further back to the west so that you could accommodate the 4 hard stands and the facilities you were putting in there. I'm assuming that's still the plan as part of that project.
You are correct.
So I know there'll be a lot of people who are interested in that, probably beyond Turnagain Community Council, just in terms of people who go out and watch planes and things. So when that gets to a stage where there is some, public review and involvement, we would love to participate in that. So that's item number 1.
Okay.
And then item number 2, Terry had mentioned in one of her responses to me regarding Lake Hood that the airport was going to potentially hire a contractor to, I'll pull up the email here and hire a contractor to conduct a planning study for the Lake Hood development, East Strip and commercial finger areas. And that it'll be a high-level planning study, and that you'd like to offer us an early meeting with information about the planning effort. And so if there's any updates on that, or you can give us a heads up when that's coming about, please let us know.
Sure, I can go ahead and give you an update. So we have gotten approval from the airlines to spend money on that plan, and that approval just came through in the last few weeks. And so we're working on our RFP to put out for the designers to take a look at this and help us determine how to develop that area on the east of the airstrip in a responsible and thoughtful manner.
Yeah, that will be of keen interest to TCC, which should be no surprise.
Very keen interest.
Very keen interest.
Kathy, I think Chris had his hand up.
All right, and then we probably need to wrap up.
Right.
As far as airport report, unless there's anything, well, I'll ask the body, do we want them to talk about that access agreement that we just found out about, or should we wait until the coastal trail signage, et cetera?
Let's wait.
Okay. All right. So, yeah.
Chris?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
Hey, Jennifer, I wanted a couple of questions, which is the parcel you're talking about is above the tanks, the tank farm. That was about 5 acres. Wasn't that the Atlas cargo thing you're talking about?
No,
That's a different property.
it's
Okay.
a different property. And Atlas doesn't have a lease over here on the west side.
Okay.
So we have I believe we have a lease over there with AAP, and I believe that's Anchorage Aviation Partners, and
Yes.
then the other development would be ours towards the north.
Also, I wanted to ask if there has been some concerns with people regarding that fence removal that's going to be this winter. Is there anything they should do? Is there any avenue or resource where they can make their opinions known?
Yeah, we have a website, and they can go in there and make comments, and we will provide responses.
Okay, good. And can you put that in the chat?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much.
And again, board, if you can track stuff like that and then send it to me, because let's see, I see that Mark has something in the chat room, which I can't really monitor, but it's probably time we kind of have gone lax on meeting with airport officials. We tried to do that quarterly. Back when Craig Campbell was acting manager, but we really haven't done that since. And so it's probably time to rejuvenate that effort. So coordination with you, Terry, or whoever would be the right person to maybe get something lined up, we would appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. We will make time available whenever you guys are free. I know you do it on a volunteer basis, but we're at work 8 to 5 every day, so we're available when you need us.
Okay.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Terry.
And Anna Brawley is now on.
Okay, and thank you so much, Jennifer, for providing information.
Thank you,
So,
John.
Oh, you're welcome.
yeah, oh, yeah, well, we appreciate all the updates. Okay, so, now, who did you say was on?
Anna Brawley is now
Anna,
on.
okay.
Yep.
So we will move back up to, Assembly Report. Anna Brawley, thanks for joining.
Yeah, thank you. And yeah, sorry, I was a little bit late. So I'll give a brief report and then happy to take questions. Sorry, just making some notes. So first, reminding everybody there is an election going on. So Tuesday, April 7th is the election day / last day to vote by 8 p.m. So just a reminder, if you have not gotten your ballot in, and remind all your folks across the city, you can do so by Dropbox. So the closest ones in District 3 are West High, Spenard Rec Center, and Diamond High. You can also take it in and mail it. So you just need one stamp because there's just one ballot card this year. So it's not as heavy as if there's two ballot cards. But just a reminder with mailing, if you don't get it postmarked, like canceled by the staff to make sure that the postmark date is before the end of the election, then your ballot may not be counted. So I would say if you're going to mail it, I would walk it into the post office, or if you're looking to drop it in a box, just take it to the drop boxes. And then you can also vote in person. So early voting is happening. There's times tomorrow. It's generally during the day, not in the evening. And then Saturday noon to 4 at the library in Midtown and City Hall downtown. And then also just remind folks, Sunday is Easter, so there's no voting that day. So plan around that if you would normally go on a Sunday. And then, of course, the longest hours for voting in person are going to be on election day itself from, I believe, 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. So anyway, I'll put in the chat, there's a website, muni.org/elections. That's the clerk's website. It's got all the information. And there's also a voter hotline, 907-243-VOTE. So I'll put those in the chat. But just a reminder, if you have any issues, if you got back and said your signature didn't match, make sure to follow up. So anyway, just lots of ways to vote, and just make sure that your vote is counted. You can also sign up for ballot tracks if you haven't already. So if you signed up before, it should have activated again. That's basically a texting or emailing service that says, hey, your ballot is in the mail out to you. And then when you turn it back in, they'll notify you that it was received and counted. And of course, if there is an issue with your ballot, that's how they'll reach out to you as well. So anyway, just another way to make sure that we have safe and secure elections. So, and I think we've talked before about the bonds and all that stuff. So just a reminder, a few more days to vote. Second, I will mention something that will be happening later this month, and that is the first quarter budget revision process. So I think I've talked about before, our budget process is year round. So we approve the budget for this fiscal year, this calendar year, same thing for us in November. So we're operating under that budget. But of course, there's adjustments we need to make. So things that have come up since the budget was passed, or some kind of unknowns that weren't, done by the end of the year, some kind of projects that carried over into the new year. So there's a lot of pieces like that we take up during the revision process. So this year, I would say I wouldn't expect to see a bunch of major shifts. We know we have a constrained budget. We've done a lot of work to really make sure that we're shoring up and then having enough funding for the services we need, but also making sure that we're working within our tax cap. So anyway, so that's another piece of it. So you won't see major changes necessarily, but continuing to work through that. And then the other piece of it is once the election is done and we know exactly which bonds and which levies have passed or not passed, those are also factored in because those taxes are collected in the same year that you vote on them. So it doesn't mean all the projects necessarily start or get done in that same year because it takes time to get them done. There's a whole queue of projects that we're working through, but really those are what would be authorized for either this year or future year. So anyway, so after all of those things are done, that's when we do our revision process, and then we finalize the budget for the year, which also allows us to finalize mill rates or the tax rates for property taxes. So that's why you don't get your actual tax bill until May. And of course, then the taxes will be due in June and August as they usually are. So so this is another part of our budget that's important. It's not as kind of big in scope in terms of the changes that are often made, but it's important. So just a heads up on that. And then I'm trying to think what other updates to give. I guess one more I'll share is I think I talked before about an ordinance that I introduced co-sponsored with Member Voland around data centers. So that did pass at our March 24th meeting. So it's a pretty small change to our zoning code. It defines data centers. It requires a conditional use process if one is built. It says where they can be built or not. So they're allowed in commercial areas and industrial areas, again, conditional use, not allowed in residential areas. And then as part of the process, it requires that the applicant talk about, how much electrical usage you intend to have and whether you've talked to the utility about if there's enough capacity. Same with water, talking to the water utility. There's restrictions around noise. There's pieces around screening and keeping your, like if they have an electrical generator, making sure that it's enclosed. And so things like that. So really, it doesn't change anything about the process. It just says that if you walk up to the counter and you say, I want to build a data center, now it's clear in our code what rules apply to that type of use. So we haven't had any come through yet, but of course it's always good to be proactive. And we know from experience in many other places now, especially these very large data centers, which I think are not likely to be built here because we don't have a lot of land and it's expensive to build here. But we know that a number of those kind of larger facilities have really caused problems for residents. So just making sure that we are kind of learning lessons from other places and being proactive. So I think that's all I have to share right now. I'm sure there's a lot of other stuff going on, obviously, so I can take questions.
Kathy?
Yes, go ahead.
And I want to thank you on that data center change in the ordinances because that's a major issue. It is going to come up. People that are in the news or following the news know what's going on specifically on that issue in the Matanuska Valley and the situation with many municipalities in the lower 48 and specifically in the northeastern United States are seeing gigantic, and in the bellwether states are seeing gigantic increases with their utility rates for the average homeowner. And this will come up in Anchorage. There will be a data center put forward in the future. You can count on that. So thank you, Anna, because that's very timely.
Okay, thank you. I see Jean and Amanda, and I don't know if anybody else has their hands raised, but Jean, why don't you go ahead?
Okay, Anna, I'm not sure if this is a question for you. I emailed Matt and Caroline. I heard back from Matt, but he didn't quite understand. So I was going to ask him again tonight. Proposition 1, Anchorage School District Capital Improvement Bonds. It is $782 for 100,000 property value, unless the state, that's with state reimbursement. Now, if the state doesn't reimburse, it goes up to $1543 per 100,000. Do you have any idea if the state will leaning toward reimbursement or not? I'm just looking for some information because it's a significant jump. And with all the other bonds and taxes, I'm just trying to figure out my budget. And I'd kind of like some information if anyone has it.
Yeah, sure. I can take a crack at it. I can't speak for the likelihood of it getting funded, but essentially what we've had in our statute for a long time, decades really, is school bond debt reimbursement. And so in rural areas that, the state owns the school and there isn't a tax base, they didn't have this debt reimbursement. They simply had, projects paid for. For us in the urban areas, we do bonds. Historically, half of that has been paid for by the state. And so that's what the reimbursement part is. So that's been in the statute. And then 10 years ago, or actually 11 years ago, I think it was either the legislature or the governor put a 10-year moratorium on that reimbursement. So they didn't take it out of the statute, but it basically said, we're not going to do that for 10 years. So for 10 years, any school bonds that we have passed did not have that reimbursement subject to it. And then prior to 2015, there was actually a time when they said, hey, we're not even going to pay the prior to 2015. And so our taxes jumped. This was maybe 5 or 6 years ago. And then the state came back and said, no, actually, just kidding. We are going to pay that reimbursement like we said we would. And our taxes went down again. So it does have a direct impact. And it is another cost shift from the state. So anyway, all that to say, now that moratorium has ended, so they didn't extend it. So the statute is back and active. But there's two parts to it. One is that has to be true, and then the legislature also has to appropriate money for it. So that's where, on paper, it says we are going to get that half. We're entitled to that, but also it is subject to appropriation. So as far as whether the legislature is going to fund that, I don't know. I mean, obviously the funding is in flux for sure, but that's kind of why there's that uncertainty, and that's why the number is either it's the number without that reimbursement is double of what the number with it is, because it's that 50-50 split.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Amanda, go ahead.
All right, thanks, Member Raleigh. So just at the Tuesday Assembly meeting, where there was that extensive parent and student testimony, and those parents, families that were just really showing a lot of great shock and concern that their school was being closed so suddenly, especially since this is related to the bonds, right? Especially since their bond had just passed last year, like a very large bond. And so with the shock of those families, really for West Side schools, looking for assembly support for West Side schools, your position on that would be helpful just to have here at our council meeting said. It really is about bonds being used for the purposes that taxpayers think they're being used for, right? And schools are really scared if they get a bond passed that means they're going to be closed and that bond money transferred. So just your take as an advocacy for those West Side schools.
Yeah, thanks for that question. And of course, we know last year Lake Hood Elementary was closed, or at least the programming there was closed and then changed into a charter school, right? So the building got repurposed. So in terms of kind of the Campbell STEM, I know we had an extensive discussion last Tuesday at the meeting, and I know a lot of people are frustrated, and I totally understand that. I've written back to a few folks my thoughts on that, and I think the bottom line, at least in that meeting, is the assembly. Our role in the budget process is to approve the school district's final budget, right? So it's really just one number, and all of the decisions around closures and really management of the school district are left to the school board. That's why we have a school board. And so it is challenging because I know there was a lot of really requests and pressure on us to kind of intervene and basically, undo what the school board did, and just legally and, by the charter, that's not how our city works. So all that said, I do think it is frustrating, that how little notice there was, and I understand why people are upset. I also have heard from folks that said, why aren't we closing more schools, right? Because they are looking at the utilization of our buildings. And I think we really have a challenge of, we have a large number of buildings, and all of them that are operating right now have a school that, people love, that people want to stay open. But also the cost of running those buildings can be very high. So I know
if I can,
conversation about
just interrupt really quick. No, I appreciate all that. Just the specific question is about the use of the bond money, since the assembly votes on the bonds that are going to go on the ballot, and you guys vote on that package, and then the result of those bonds. What do you feel your role for advocating for West Side bond money being used for West Side schools, and your role in that, especially with your co-chair as the budget?
Yeah, thanks. I mean, certainly I want to see if the school district has put forward bonds, and you're right that we do approve the final number of those. I know it's pretty rare for us to make changes to what the school district has put forward. So I certainly support, putting the bond money toward the intended projects. And so I know that the example of if a school burns down, right, then we're not going to put a roof on a building that burned down, for example. So I think there's also practicality involved. But in terms of if the school is still operating, then yeah, I would support that. And I think it is a challenge because when we go to voters and we ask to ask them to essentially pay for these things, we need to make sure that we're maintaining that trust. And I know that has been badly bruised in the last couple of years. And I also know a lot of the anger at the school district and the school board is really about funding. And it's hard because they don't appropriate money, right? They don't take in money themselves. And so anyway, all that to say, I think it is a complicated conversation. I certainly support using the bonds for the schools as intended. But also we know that things can change, right? And so I know Member Baldwin Day in Midtown and I have both committed to continuing the conversation with the Campbell STEM folks, continuing to work with the district, because I think there needs to be more public understanding of the situation the district's in. And also having a two-way conversation, right? Having opportunities to talk with the board and district administration. So I know Member Baldwin Day has offered to convene that meeting. I'm happy to help with that as well. Because I think it is what, we have a school district that really is in crisis, and we have a state that in many ways is in fiscal crisis. And so we have to be talking about what our priorities are. And we have to help the public understand and help us make big decisions that need to be made. So, anyway, yeah, it's a big topic. I know we don't have a lot of time to dig into it now, but yeah, it's a challenging time for our city and for our school district.
Okay, thank you, Anna. Does anybody else have their hand raised and would like to ask Anna anything? Anything? If not, thank you so much, Anna. Appreciate your input every month and all the hard work that you and the assembly try to accomplish under sometimes less than ideal circumstances. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks. And I'll put just a little bit of info in the chat. Thanks.
Okay, great. Okay, let's see. Is Matt Clayman with us yet? Senator Matt Clayman? Whoever can see all the participants, Dan or Ford?
I see Kelly Lessons there from the school district.
Oh, okay. So then let's go ahead and jump to you. Go ahead, Kelly. Thank you for attending.
Hi, everyone. Thank you. It is April, and that means that we are in our final hurrah here in the school district before we head towards the high school graduation season, which is, of course, really exciting for all of our graduates. Those are coming up in mid-May. There were definitely some questions that I'll get to. I wanted to go over some nuts and bolts first. I think we've talked about the 2 makeup days that the district has added for snow, but I just wanted to say them again. This month on April 17th and next month on May 21st, there will be school those 2 days to make up for snow days earlier this year. I've gone forward in time. Let's go back in time now. So the board had a lot of meetings in February, including the budget meetings. I've recapped the budget situation when I was here before, but just to remind you, after relying on available fund balance to mitigate some of that $90 million blow and trimming administration to the greatest extent we could, and cutting non-classroom areas, including nurses, we were still had to resort to increasing our pupil-teacher ratio and also eliminated the middle school model, which has provided our middle school students historically with additional learning opportunities, and the teachers at the middle school level additional collaborative time to focus on their students' needs. So those things had to be cut to help balance the budget in addition to those 3 schools. Because of the middle school model, that's going to inform a couple of things coming up at our next meeting, which is going to be on April 6th, which is a Monday. Normally we meet on Tuesdays, but Tuesday is election night, so we're meeting on April 6th. One of the items is going to be, it'll be non-action, so we'll talk about it or vote on it in 2 meetings. We have this board wellness policy, which is quite comprehensive and underwent a significant renovation a few years ago. In that process, we eliminated the ability of middle school students to have a PE waiver. The state of Alaska mandates that students in grades K through 8 have opportunities to receive 90% of the CDC's recommended amount of physical activity during the school day. So that's why the board at that time removed the option for middle school students to have a PE waiver, because we wanted to align with state law. Because of the budget crisis that we're in, it will be very hard for middle school students to take their core coursework and pursue a fine arts like orchestra or band and a language, or if a student is in special education, receiving special education services, the options are just going to be very, very constrained. So one path forward is to reinstate a PE waiver for middle school students. And so we will be talking about a revision of the policy governing that. And it's my understanding that it would, you don't necessarily have to be an elite soccer athlete or a member of one of the elite ski teams that participating in middle school sports just in some way, shape, or form will allow you to be eligible for a PE waiver. So we're going to see a little bit more of those details get fleshed out, but I just wanted to put that on folks' radar because it is a bit of a change. We're also going to be talking about a calendar change for each of the next 3 years because when the board approved a new multi-year contract with the teachers union earlier this year, we added 3 days to the school calendar. And so we have to adjust that. And my understanding is that the proposal will add those 3 days each year to the start of the school year to better balance out different semesters and quarters. And then another item at our upcoming meeting is going to be related to the purchase of middle school social studies curricular materials because the current materials date from 2005 and have become unavailable and are no longer supported. And with the elimination of Chromebooks for middle school students next year in the budget, we actually need to revert to hard copies of things. So those are a few things coming down the pipeline for our upcoming board meeting. And I would be remiss if I didn't flag that there will be 2 new board members sworn in, elected and sworn in at the first meeting in May. So we will gavel in and have a new board. And at that point, we will rearrange ourselves because we're elected across the municipality. I've rotated into the Turnagain Community Council and the West feeder schools this year, and somebody else will take over that role, possibly effective in May, possibly effective in July. I'm not quite sure on that because we've had such a stable board for the past 4 or 5 years. In any event, there was a question. So we have the election coming up. There are 2 items with respect to ASD on the ballot. Both were discussed earlier. Proposition 9, actually, I think I heard Proposition 9 come up, but if it didn't, I'll start there. Proposition 9 is this one-time operational levy. It's $11.8 million. And every penny of that, the board has directed the administration allocate towards teachers. And for the first time today, we on the board see things, a day or 2 earlier than they'll be available to the public. I saw that will mean if for folks in your neighborhood that West would receive 3.8 additional teachers, which is really the equivalent of 18 classes, right? So the West principal could allocate, I don't know, 2 more high-level math classes or 4 more language classes. The principal will be allowed to allocate those teacher positions, but the net to West High School would be 3.8 FTE. Roma would receive 1.4, Central would receive 0.6, so still effectively 3 or so classes. Turnagain Elementary School would receive an extra teacher, and Inlet View would receive an extra teacher. And I bet those are the schools that came to mind immediately as being affected or within or close to the Turnagain. But there will be an appendix attached to the agenda for the Monday night meeting that details how each of those positions would be allocated by school. So secondary schools will have the most, and the bulk of elementary schools will get 1 teacher position. And there's about 5.5 total specialist FTE. So those are your elementary school art, music, PE teacher positions. I don't know exactly how they'd be allocated, but that's where they'd be looked right now. So the Proposition 9.
I'm going to ask you to wrap up, please.
Okay, sorry.
I'll have to get Senator Matt Clinton in. So
Great.
just appreciate all the information.
Just wanted you guys to know that Those dollars will go directly to classroom teachers. And then regarding the question about, so we have Proposition 1 is the bond. Member Brawley answered that really quite well. But I did want to make a distinction. There was a suggestion that a school that gets a bond project passed has a target on its back. And I think that's not necessarily, that's just not the case. Campbell STEM had two separate financial packages attached to it. One was the bond that was passed last year. That's absolutely true. The other was school bond debt reimbursement dollars from the state dating back a few years. That was the $2.2 million in fungible money. It's the same pot of fungible money that the board allocated to Inlet View Elementary School, for which it received pushback from some people for not using those fungible dollars for capital projects, for operational, like teachers instead. So now we have used those fungible dollars to shore up high school and middle school sports, 16 middle school teachers, and a number of nurses. So I know that my time is limited, but I did want to make a distinction that the bond that voters, the bond package that voters approve is directly going towards capital projects. The school bond debt reimbursement dollars the district received a few years ago, some of which was allocated to Campbell STEM, was fungible and had originally been assigned to capital projects. But in our declining enrollment situation where we needed to right size the district, we appropriated those dollars for operational needs for next year. So I will pause there because I know I'm short on time, but I do see a hand.
Okay, Jonathan, is that you?
Yeah, it's just a really quick question for Kelly.
Sure.
Kelly, there's been a message going around regarding the Anchorage School District on East Northern Lights and the giant shopping center that used to be the Anchorage School District Administration Building. There's been a message going around Anchorage on social media, but it bears discussion. And so the question is, or first I'll postulate that why do we need that gigantic building for the administration of the school district when there are schools that have space, as it's been discussed, and the size of that building and the heating of that building and the utilities of that building? Why would we not have the Anchorage School District divest themselves of that building, given the emergency situation you've discussed and we all know? Are you or are you not a proponent of this and repurpose some schools that are somewhat empty to allow administration physical spatial areas for economy of scale, as you just mentioned? Yes or no? What's your opinion on that?
Yeah, thank you for the question. I'll try to be brief. A couple of years ago, I really raised that exact question to the district administration, and that ended in us renegotiating the lease for the Ed Center at something like $700,000 a year less than it was. I don't remember the numbers exactly, but the pressure that the board put at that point in time did lead to a lower overall multi-year lease. Now we're in a different stage than we were then. I don't anticipate that right sizing is done at this point in time. One of the uses of the Ed Center is for large capacity trainings. So you could have 200 teachers in the boardroom on any
Kelly,
given
let me
weekday.
just ask you, are you a proponent or are you not a proponent of this concept?
I think it's absolutely, it has its merits, but it would need to be done in concert with a right sizing process that shutters a large enough school or two schools that are adjacent to each other so that the district has space to move into so it can continue to support, let's say, 200 teachers or principals in the building at the same time.
Okay,
So
thank you for your answer. What I'd like to see, and to end the question would be, what is the total cost of that shopping center that's been converted, the school district administration headquarters? I'd like to see I'm sure there's a lot of people like to see what is the total cost of that per annum. Thank you very
I
much.
don't have that right now, but I can get back to you next month. Or
That'd
if
be
you
great.
you can
That'd
email
be
me directly at my school board website.
I'm easy to
I
get a
mean,
hold
email.
of, and
Okay.
so is the
Okay, I'm
rest of
sorry,
the
but
board. Thank you.
we're gonna have to cut school board report off because assuming that Senator Matt Clayman is with us, is he with us now?
It's just maybe going in the future, Kathy, if we, especially in the election cycle, if we can put more time for this because it is the crunch time for that.
We did put a fair amount of time on our agenda on this. Thank you, Amanda. So is Senator Matt Clayman, has he joined us?
He's just getting on right now, Kathy.
Okay, thank you, Karen. Then we'll jump back to our second part of our legislative process.
Hi, Matt.
Legislative report.
You're up if you're ready.
Okay, yeah, I apologize. I can't see everybody. So Matt, if you're
Go
with
ahead,
me,
Matt.
I thank you for attending, and you have the floor.
Kathy, thank you very much for having me this evening. I would say the biggest topics that are going on in the legislature here this week and next week we're making real progress on the budget. The House, I think the House Finance Committee may have finished their work on the budget today, and that'll be on the House floor next week. From there, it'll come to us in the Senate. So that process is moving forward. Continue lots of questions about the budget. I believe the House Finance Committee has released a budget that has a statutory dividend. I'm not sure whether that will stay intact on the floor in the House, but I'm fairly certain that will not stay intact in the Senate because I think there's recognition that we don't have the cash resources to pay a statutory dividend. And then on kind of a bigger picture, an area I've been working on a lot is to put on the ballot in November whether we should lower the override threshold for fiscal vetoes by the governor from 3/4 to 2/3, because we're the only state in the country that has that high of a veto override requirement. That measure passed the Senate by the required 2/3 vote on Tuesday, and that'll go over to the House here soon for them to consider whether to lower that veto override threshold. So those are a couple things going on, but mostly here to answer your questions.
Okay, well, Matt, thank you. So do you think that the House would support that 3/4 to 2/3?
We're working to get the votes to pass. To put it on the ballot, we have to have a 2/3 vote in both the House and the Senate. So we've got the 2/3, the requirement 2/3 in the Senate, and I'll be working with folks in the House to try to gather all the votes to support that. We were able to do it with just a majority vote in the Senate with our 14-member majority. For the House to get the 2/3 in the House, we'll need minority support.
Okay, thank you. Okay, who else has a question for Matt?
Yeah, thank you, Senator Clayman, for bringing that up. That was my question, was about that constitutional amendment. And then what you said about the PFD, that we just don't have the money to afford for that. I am curious, the juxtaposition of those two things, because am I correct in understanding that is just talking about a veto, the governor's ability to veto spending? So it seems like in a cash-strapped situation that we're at, why would we be expanding the power of someone to curtail spending at this point? Or why would we be against that mechanism being used when we don't have a lot of money in the state right now, if that's what I hear you saying?
So the biggest reason to have a 2/3 override requirement for it requiring 2/3. The first, it's actually quite difficult to override anything with a 2/3 vote. Largely, if the governor is working well with the legislature, you never come to overrides. Governor Dunleavy has actually had a record number of overrides, particularly in the last year. And there's other governors that have very, very few overrides. The total number of overrides of non-financial matters have been a little over 40 over state history. And then on financial items, there's only been 5 overrides. And the reason to have a 2/3 override standard is primarily because it really encourages the governor and the legislature to work together.
My question, thank you for that, but my question is about in this current fiscal situation, we're seeing it in Anchorage, we're seeing the state. Why did you specifically do this? Why in the text of the bill is it about the spending, the veto of the spending, overriding a veto of spending?
The reason is that the appropriation power in Alaska, like in I think every state in the country, the power to appropriate money is in the legislature's authority. So the governor can't spend money without permission. He can't spend any money unless the legislature gives it to him to spend. And so the legislature appropriates money, and the governor's authority with the line item veto is to reduce spending below what the legislature appropriates. So the governor can't increase spending. All the governor can do is reduce spending.
Yes, I understand that. So it seems my concern is that the timing of this, it seems ill-timed. I'm concerned that so many that's being pushed forward when we don't seem to have a lot of money to spend, and that this could be a mechanism that could cause overspending. So I'm just curious why you feel like this is the time we need to have such a constitutional amendment to increase the possibility of spending in the state.
Well, I would just, I understand your perspective. And I think the biggest part when we have these spending challenges, when we don't have the legislature working well with the governor, I think that's a reminder of the importance for both the governor and the legislature to work together. We're not going to solve any of these problems by ourselves. The legislature can't do it by themselves. The governor can't do it by himself. And the 3/4, from my perspective, the 3/4 override requirement has actually made it easier for the governor not to engage with the legislature to address challenges that we face.
Okay, thank you.
Kathy?
Maybe one more very quick question, and then we need to move on.
Yeah, this is critical, and I want to thank Matt specifically for ramrodding this amendment that I hope will be placed on the ballot. It's a basically a critical issue, and we look at it nationally as we see what's happening of a separation of who's in charge of the money, who's in charge of spending it, and who controls the budget. And it's critical. And Alaska should not be the only state that the threshold is so high. The other question, I do have a question for Matt, and it's totally unrelated to any of this, but Matt, there was an article that came out just today by public media, Alaska Public Media, on a scathing discussion regarding our cruise companies, the largest one being Carnival, that has 5 different cruise companies, subsidiaries, and back to my harangue about the Ocean Rangers, and it was a really condemning situation regarding Carnival and what they have not done in terms of Alaskans' pristine waters. So I'd like to see, I think other people would like to see a return to the Ocean Rangers program, because we know that our waters are being fouled by tour companies, which are important. We want tourism, our second largest industry, but at what price? So that should be addressed. It's a major issue, especially in Southeast and especially in Juneau and Ketchikan and Sitka. Thank you for your comments on this, Matt.
So thanks for that question. I was when we the Ocean Ranger program was one that was working well. It was self-funded. It wasn't something that was costing well. The funding for it came from fees that were collected from cruise ships and stuff. And I was just very disappointed when the program was killed. I think it would be great to bring it back. I'm not sure there's an easy path to bring it back at this point, but I do think it was a very good program, and it was an example of things that worked for Alaska. And so it's again disappointing that we don't have it today. And I think we should look to try to figure out a way to bring a program like that back, especially if it works economically.
Well, we'll see what happens with whoever the next administration is.
Sounds
Thank
good.
you.
Okay, thank you so much, Matt. Really appreciate your report and your presence here at our meeting this evening. So continued well wishes down in Juneau.
Thank you very much, and y'all have a good Thursday evening.
Okay. Okay, well, we will move on now to old and new business. We're running a bit behind, so we'll try and make the best of trying to not go into overtime, so to speak, but on occasion we need to if we feel like we need that extra time. So first on the agenda is John Pierce and Zach Poland, and I will just turn the meeting over to you, and you guys can briefly explain what your proposal is. And I know you've got something to screen share as well.
All right, thanks, Kathy. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Let's see. Okay, I just wanted to show a map real quickly. So can everyone, oh, let's see, I gotta hit share here. Can everyone see the map well?
We can see it now.
Okay, so just to orient everyone, we're talking about the Clitheroe Flats area. So that is this marsh area right here, just north of the Coastal Trail and the former Recycling Center and Clitheroe Center. So what we're going to be talking about tonight is right along the Coastal Trail, but we often call the marsh out here the Clitheroe Flats. So just so everyone knows when they hear that word, that's what we're talking about. And then I have a couple slides. So myself and Zach Poland are on the phone. And so we're just going to go through a couple slides about a project idea we have to enhance some of the social trails that are down on the Clitheroe Flats area and on the bluff near the Coastal Trail, and also enhance some wildlife viewing and also enhance some protections for birds that breed and migrate through the marsh area, which is pictured here. So just a quick outline, I'll just briefly introduce the two of us, talk about the purpose of the presentation and some ideas that we have for improving the social trails there that I mentioned, list of who we've talked to so far about these ideas and some next steps that we're considering. And then we just really look forward to your feedback and some discussion if we have time. So Zach, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm a wildlife biologist with the Fish and Wildlife Service. I work for migratory bird management and focus most of my work on protecting birds throughout the state. And I am also the state coordinator for eBird, which is a citizen science platform for engaging people with the birds around them.
All right. And yeah, I'm John. I'm a retired wildlife biologist and program manager with the USGS Alaska Science Center here in town. I'm also a volunteer with the Anchorage Park Foundation and the Municipality of Anchorage Parks and Rec. I do a lot of bike trail work, signs mostly, but this presentation is just myself as a citizen, not as a volunteer with those groups. So Zach and I have some ideas, as I mentioned, about improving some social trails along the Coastal Trail bluff, primarily for wildlife protections that use the marsh, but for improving the wildlife viewing along the Coastal Trail. And then we just really like to hear some feedback from you all about some of these ideas, and then come up with a plan to move forward that be in collaboration with the TCC, the Heritage Land Bank, Alaska Department of Fish and Game, and the municipality. And Steve Matsuoka, who's a refuge manager for some of the state refuges in the state of Alaska, is also on the phone. So if you have questions for him, he can answer those. So the map here just shows some of the ideas that we have. It's real specific to an area that's just right kind of in the center of the marsh, but on the bluff area. So the ideas that we have is there's currently an existing social trail, this yellow line, that is used by recreation users, bird watchers to actually access the marsh and walk out into the marsh. We're interested in asking people to spend less time walking in the marsh and sort of more time viewing wildlife from the coastal trail itself or from a platform that we were interested in creating that's along this social trail. There's also these blue dots are existing bike pullouts along the paved coastal trail. But a lot of those views are now blocked by shrubs, primarily alder, and others are blocked by trees. But I think those trees have been there for a long time. So we're interested in thinning some of that vegetation. These polygons are just some rough ideas about how to thin maybe some of the spruce or not spruce, the alder bushes that are there. We're not really interested in cutting down trees. It's more alders. And so we're interested in thinning some vegetation just in these two areas where there are existing pullouts or existing natural clearings, such as where this current social trail is. And we've talked to Brad Muir, who's the natural resource specialist with the municipality about this. And he's interested in working with us on this. So it'd be something we do in collaboration with Brad, not something that we just go out and do on our own. And as I said before, Zach and I are really interested in not cutting down a bunch of trees, but rather just thinning some of the alders to improve the views so that people could see wildlife from the trail rather than walking down into the marsh. Another idea is to actually add an additional trail. That's this blue line. There's an existing clearing in the woods here. So that's another spot where people could view wildlife from just on their way back up to the coastal trail. So those are the two primary trail ideas that we have. So we just improve those, keep them primitive, not build any structures, put some gravel or some mulch down, depending upon what Brad recommends. Thin some trees or some shrubs, mostly in these polygon areas, and then also develop some interpretive signs along the coastal trail, both in these locations and also some other locations to let people know about the importance of the marsh for wildlife, primarily for birds, and asking people to spend time on the coastal trail rather than going down into the marsh to view the wildlife. So this is just kind of a text summary of that. So as I mentioned, just improving those primitive trails, possibly adding that new primitive trail I talked about, and then thin some vegetation in at least those two areas to improve the viewing from the coastal trail, and then install up to 5 signs along the coastal trail about the value of the marsh to wildlife, especially migrating and nesting birds. And this would be really informative, we think, for Anchorage residents and a lot of the visitors that use the coastal trail, especially, we're seeing an increase in those rental bikes with people getting out that far. So this is a great way to educate people about the value of that marsh for migrating birds that come through Anchorage. So
Okay.
who have we talked to so far? We're meeting with you all tonight. We've met already with, as I mentioned, Steve Matsuoka with Alaska Department of Fish and Game. And Steve and I went down and looked at all these locations during the winter. We've met with Heritage Land Bank to talk to them about these ideas. Anchorage Audubon Society we met with. We've also briefed Alaska Audubon. And then we've met with the Municipality of Anchorage Parks and Rec, both the park superintendent and the natural resources manager about these ideas. And all of these groups are supportive of moving forward with some of these ideas, but we really want to get some feedback from the Turnagain Community Council. So next steps, we'd really like to hear your feedback, as I mentioned. We have been encouraged by the municipality to submit a Park Foundation Community Challenge grant to pay for some of the materials. So we're considering that, but it's due next week. So that could fund some of the signage and the trail material that we've talked about using. And if we did this, it's a 2-year grant, as you all probably know. So the trail work doesn't have to begin this summer. Give us some time to really consider what we're looking at and how best to develop those trails, and then do the work in 2027. And then the content of the design of the signs would occur this year and then install next year. There's a lot of really good research about ways to design signs that are effective for educating people about disturbance to wildlife when they're walking dogs or just walking in marshy areas. That's been done in other parts of the country. So we would follow those examples to come up with signs that would really be instructive to people and help them understand sort of the issues that we're talking about. So that's my last slide. So let me just see if Zach has anything he wants to add, and then we'd love to hear your questions.
In the interest of time, let's just move straight to questions.
Yeah, and because depending on how much input, we might want to form an ad hoc committee to work more closely with you guys on some of the specifics, because it's probably not going to be something we can discuss in detail at this meeting, unfortunately. Yes, Dan, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I've been out on this coastal trail. We just went out there and looked at least one of the turnouts. And yeah, you want to clear out the alders in that area, but the slope is pretty steep in those areas, and I was concerned about erosion and erosion control of those if you clear out the trees, because once you do that, you weaken the root system. And that one that's to the west or southwest, where you have the social trail, that is a little gully right there, and that has good runoff. So if you clean out the trees in that area, or the alders, the shrubs, do you have a plan to do erosion control?
Well, we'd work with Brad to not cut anything that would lead to erosion. So and this, we still need to talk quite a bit with Brad about what exactly we would be thinning. But my preference would not be to cut anything at the base that would lead to erosion, but rather thin stuff, midway or higher up in the bush, similar to what's done along the coastal trail, on regular occasions, just to provide better access for skiers and bikers along the main trail. So something similar to that is what I'd be looking for.
Yeah, the reason why is they cleared all those trees out between Elderberry Park and the Westchester Lagoon, Westchester, and I'm really concerned about the erosion where they cleaned out all the trees right there.
Okay, thanks for that comment.
Thanks, Dan. I can't see if anybody else has their hand raised. Does anybody else have their hand raised?
No, but I was just wondering, is this a private collaboration? This isn't through a specific nonprofit, right? This is a citizen idea that's just moving
These are,
forward.
citizen idea, yeah.
Got it.
I know I've got several things, and I don't know if it's appropriate to really do a deeper dive in this, or if we create any kind of ad hoc committee to talk about some of the more details. One of the things that caught my attention when you shared your presentation with me via email, which I appreciate, is the reference to Clitheroe Flats, Clitheroe this, Clitheroe that. And we know for decades, all of us have referred to that area because of the Clitheroe Center and operations there. But they are no longer there. And we were told by the municipality there potentially is another entity interested in leasing out that rehab facility. I doubt if that name is going to be Clitheroe. And it's probably time to move forward with formally not referring to any project or location as Clitheroe. I've never, ever heard the phrase Clitheroe Flats before, so that was a new one. I don't think it's where we want to go longer term because of the outdatedness, but that's something that, again, those groups that are interested in continuing with this discussion, we could find some more appropriate way to refer to the areas and or the project in itself. And also, I think we can interpretive sign overboard at times along trails. And so I know when we talked, you talked about just one overlook, but obviously the plan has expanded since then. And I don't think it would be necessary to put interpretive signage at every one of those turnouts in that stretch. Do
No.
you want to put the map up again? That seems like overkill, and it just seems
Kathy,
a little bit much.
Sandy and
But
I both have our hands up, and I agree that we're probably going to need more time for this. So,
okay, so what, Karen, are you proposing to create an ad hoc committee to kind of deal with some of this
yeah,
discussion?
let's have an ad hoc committee to talk about this.
But Sandy, and best wishes on your recovery. So briefly, if you want to bring something up and then join us on an ad hoc committee.
Yeah, let me just bring up a real quick point. If there are any garbage cans in the existing turnouts, or if there are any if you guys have thought about any, my simple message is first, I don't think the trail needs more garbage cans, but if they're there, or if other people think we do, please make sure they are bear-proof garbage cans. That's the take home, bear-proof garbage cans. Trying to get the whole coastal trail with bear-proof garbage cans as opposed to, non-bear-proof garbage cans. So I'll just leave it at that.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, thanks, Sandy. Okay, and is there anybody that would like to serve on an ad hoc committee so that we can continue our discussion from a community council perspective and working with these other really good groups, so that the end result is kind of reflective of, that area and how it should be used and the improvements that
Yes,
might make a lot of
Kathy.
sense. So Marcy, I see you have your hand raised. Go ahead.
I think she was volunteering for the committee, as
Oh,
am I.
okay, Marcy, thank you. Okay, so let's see. So I would like to be on it.
I also
Dean
see Jean.
Bialowski, got John Isaacs.
Wait, excuse me. Okay, so Karen and Dan, what did you
Jean,
say? Oh, and
Dean
Marcy.
Bialowski and John Isaacs got their hand raised. I don't know whether
Okay.
John wants to be on the committee or could this be a subcommittee to the land use committee?
I don't know.
Well, that's a good point. John and I are chairs of our land use committee. It's a standing committee, not an ad hoc. So John Isaacs, what do you think about just tucking this in under land use?
That makes a difference. I mean, we certainly can. It's going to be an ad hoc committee working on it anyway, so it doesn't really matter much, I think, what we call it. We can certainly make it part of the land use committee and just pull folks together on it.
Okay. So I've got myself and Karen and Marcy. Marcy, what was your last name?
You're muted, Marcy.
And
Still
if you can
muted.
share your contact information in the
Yeah, I'm
chat
putting
room.
that into the notes
Okay, thank you.
with my
And
phone
again,
number. It's Rosenberg.
okay. And again, board, if you can note that for me, I would appreciate it. So I've got myself and Karen and Marcy and John Isaacs and Jean Belowski and Dan. Did you want to serve on that or not?
No.
No. Okay. So
Yeah,
anybody else?
I'll just work through you, Kathy.
Okay. So Jonathan, sorry, what were you adding? You want to be on the committee?
No, I don't want to be on the committee, but I'm on the board of Turnagain Community Council. So I think that the committee can discuss this to move along, given this meeting is pretty complicated and we're over time.
I know.
The committee will, Kathy, your ad hoc committee with this gentleman, John. Overall, I think the idea is excellent. It's a matter of details. So I think when you get together with Mr. Pierce, you can then report back to both the board and the Turnagain Community Council in general, and we'll go from there. But we have to move along. So
Right. Okay. So if no one is opposed, then a committee to collaborate with the project proposers and other partners that have weighed in would be a great opportunity for this kind of a project in this area. So the devil's already in the details, but thank you for thinking of ways to do some improvements and make this area even more special. So with that, unless you have any closing remarks, either John or Zach, we're gonna have to move on.
Okay.
So
Yeah, thanks for the time.
Yep.
okay, thank you. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, Sean. And remember, no good deed goes unpunished. Okay, I've got to run. I've got another meeting, but thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Jonathan. Okay, our next one is just a very brief recap of Turnagain Community Council, along with Spenard and Sand Lake and Taku Campbell, hosted a 2026 West Anchorage Candidates Forum on March 23rd. And we were very fortunate to find a venue. It was Stellar Secondary School multi-purpose room. It worked out very well. We had both of the District 3 Assembly candidates attend, as well as 4 of the 5 school board candidates. So it made for a very good evening. We had 62 people sign in. That included organizers and attendees and candidates. So thank you for those who attended and those who participated in organizing. Very much appreciated. And hopefully we'll probably do one this fall, since we have state legislative elections coming up. So again, thank you to everybody who was part of that project. Okay, so we need a ratification consideration of Turnagain Community Council with regard to comments that were submitted on the draft 2026 Regional Trails Plan. We created this ad hoc committee last month, and Sarah Haley and Marnie Isaacs and myself volunteered to do that and reviewed the trails plan. And because the deadline for comments was Tuesday, March 31st, we had to go ahead and submit that. And so if somebody could share screen our submittal, we'll need to ratify these. Like I said, it's kind of one of those things where you do it backwards because of time limitations. And we won't go into a lot of detail, but Sarah or Marnie, either one of you want to take the lead on just really, let's see, there we go. Just give a brief overview on kind of the highlights of what our input consisted of. And this is in addition to the TCC resolution that we passed at our March meeting with regard to supporting the 3 councils, North Star, Sand Lake, South Addition and Turnagain, with regard to trails in the Westchester kind of area. So these are in addition to that submittal. So Sarah, are you with us this evening?
Marnie will take the start and Sarah can augment.
Okay, sounds good. Marnie, you have the floor.
And to tee off what you said, I checked with the city today, and the resolutions on the Westchester Lagoon improvements from all 3 community councils were received and recorded. So, and they all voted unanimously, as did Turnagain. So that was a job well done.
Well, and thank you, Marnie, for taking the lead on that.
Yeah, the summary of our comments here on the rest of the plans focus mostly on those in the Turnagain area. And we were interested in establishing particularly an index of possible easements and such. That would be just a good policy question that they should consider. The other thing that we focused on was some caveats. If you're going to go through some of these trails and attach a class 6 12-foot wide multi-use trail, that there was some language we thought should be in there in terms of being sure it was paid attention to the natural environment around there, and to be sensitive to wildlife and the environment around these trails. Don't make class 6 a turnpike. I don't know, do you want to jump in here? Thanks, Kathy, by the way, for adding at the very end my comment. I'd like to see more monitoring by, I don't think APD, but monitoring speed and dogs off leash. I'd like to somehow find a place where an agency can afford to do that in the summertime, particularly maybe in high dense areas. Sarah, are you on?
Yeah, I'm here. I've got my screen up. I don't know if you guys can see it. I'm sure there's a better way to do that than
We
showing
can see it.
Yep.
showing all
you,
my
Sarah.
showing all my bookmarks and tabs open. But
No, it's
no,
good.
I appreciate the opportunity to be on the committee. I had joined as a avid trail user and as a mountain bike enthusiast. There was one part of the plan that talks about adding a single track that would run parallel between essentially like Point Warrenzoff and Kincaid Park, so that a user would have an option other than the paved coastal trail to get where they need to go, which is something interesting also to think about with the last presentation that we just had. To add, it would, I think the way it would work is it would kind of track to the east of the coastal trail. And we did create a comment for that section. And it wasn't that we necessarily were opposed to it, but we just wanted to make sure that we understood, and it was here, it was project number 7, which was build a novice and beginner single track float trail along the coastal trail between Earthquake Park and Kincaid. So a little bit further, be starting right over here, Earthquake Park. And so we talked a little bit about the wildlife corridor, the natural area, obviously the ecosystem and the vegetation. It's quite boggy over there. There's just a lot of water that pools in that area. And so, although it might be nice to have a mode for the folks who would like to have a little bit more off pavement experience, which I enjoy that myself. We talked about how it is a wildlife corridor, and oftentimes when you're in that part of the coastal trail, you're already going to have a wildlife encounter. Well, now you add a wildlife pinch point because you're going to have wildlife dispersing over onto the other trail because they get spooked, or onto the trail that you're on because they're spooked from the other user. So I think that there's a little bit of risk there. What we did is we recommended that we just kind of lower it from being a medium or a mid to a lower, the lowest one, which is a level low versus level high. There was low, high, and mid. So that was one that kind of stuck out to me as a user, and I love to see trails, but the ultimate theme is we have quite a few trails already, and I think we can all kind of, I think a lot of us, I won't say we all, but we share in the need to maintain what we currently have versus continuing to build more that then will cost time and effort and workforce to maintain. So that was kind of a theme of our comments as well.
Yeah, and Sarah, if I might add on that one, ultimately the committee felt like that would need to be revisited and discussed. But long term, if it's still alive and after this draft, it would need discussion again because of everything that you just pointed out.
Most definitely. So again, there's a lot on the screen. This was attached to the meeting minutes, or as the meeting notice that went out the other day. So if you wanted to take a closer look at it, due to the time crunch, like Kathy mentioned, we did submit them, but they're open for ratification, and we'd love to hear people's feedback. But all of these are great things with a lot of safety in mind. It's just widening trails and making them safer, of course, does come with a cost. So we kind of have to think about strategically where they're best needed and then keep erosion and the natural beauty and the natural topography in mind as we make them safer for all users.
Many thanks, Sarah. I would entertain a motion at this point to ratify the ad hoc committee's comments that have been submitted on this trails plan?
I move to ratify the ad hoc committee's comments.
Second, Dan Gleason.
Okay, thank you, John. Thank you, Dan. Does anybody want to discuss very briefly any of the input that that Marnie and Sarah kind of covered? We did get some good guidance within the draft plan on what we liked about it, and then a few things that we definitely felt like should be taken into consideration. And Sarah did a great job of describing that. So I certainly will support it. Does anybody else have any comments on this?
Hi, Kathy. It will be great to just keep this in mind when we're having those additional discussions about any trail improvements over there and those kinds of things. So, thanks for your work, guys.
Okay. Any other comments before we vote on ratification?
How are we going to tie this to the CIP?
That will be up to the ad hoc CIP committee. That it now just has 3 people on it that I mentioned earlier. So that will, we'll take that into consideration. Anybody else have anything to share?
Call the question.
Okay. I need a what is it, 2/3 vote to call the question, I believe. So is there anybody supportive of, or excuse me, opposed to calling the question? No opposition? Okay, so that passes. So would everybody who is in favor of ratification of the comments submitted on behalf of Turnagain Community Council on the 2026 Recreational Trails Plan, please raise your hand, and I'll need help from board to count hands, please. And let's see, let me get mine up.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 hands so far.
Okay.
I got 12, counting
12.
twice.
Oh, okay. Forgot Marnie. Sorry. Marnie and John. Okay.
So is 12 final number?
Yes.
Okay. If everybody would lower their hands, please. And then I'll ask if, and I'm having trouble lowering mine. There it goes. Is there anybody opposed? Anybody? I guess not. And so that motion to ratify passes. So I would thank you on behalf of Marnie and Sarah and our work that we were able to accomplish. It's been a long time since this plan has been updated, so it's a good project that the Muni has put forth.
Yeah, Kathy, I should mention that this is part of a 10-year plan. The actual final will come out in about 6 months.
Yeah, this will have to get, approval from probably Anchorage Parks Advisory Commission. I'm not sure about planning and zoning, for sure the assembly. So yeah, it'll go through some more steps, but thanks, Marnie, for pointing that out. Okay, next item under old and new business is creating an ad hoc committee with regard to some flooding issues along Lakeshore Drive, 44th, and that should be Avenue. I apologize, that's a typo. It's not street. And Beechcraft Drive area, and we have some neighbors that are from that area. And so I'll turn this over to you, Karen, and the other two people that have been supportive of you on this, and we will have a little bit of a review of going on and decide if we have time to deep down discussion, because we are at Fort Hill and we still have land use committee. Really, probably the better way to handle this is again create an ad hoc committee that can go into a deep dive of what should be done, how Turnagain Community Council can be involved in resolution of some of these issues.
That all sounds
So
good to me. I know Karen expressed interest in being a part of this. I have my two neighbors here with me. They would like to give input, maybe participate on the committee or not. But I'm definitely in, and I have support with two neighbors here, and maybe Karen Plotnikoff will join us on that committee. And I don't know if anyone else, if there's reason to explore the issue further right now, if there's time. I'll let you guide me on that.
Yeah, I was under the impression that the point would be to draft a potential project for CIP consideration this year. And I don't know why. I mean, if you'd like a committee to talk about that, that's fine. But I think you could also just start drafting that, less than a page for a potential project description.
Well, actually, the upgrade of Lakeshore Drive is already on our CIP list.
Is that section what that means? Or
yes. I think essentially it is. It may not go, I don't have that in front of me, how we specifically describe that. The issue with Lakeshore Drive and any improvements is the right of way is very narrow. And so that standard neighborhood collector design of roads and drainage, bike trail on one side, sidewalk on the other, lighting, etc., won't work. And the municipality pointed that out to us, so we scaled down our request for Lakeshore Drive on our CIP list last year. I don't have that in front of me, but I don't know how much it would address the drainage issue, which is the key thing that Karen and her neighbors and others have complained about. I mean, those of us who have lived here quite a while, we've seen that area look like it does right now for years during spring breakup. There's nothing that the municipality has done to try and put in something more permanent to address this annual flooding and potholes, and that really, frankly, is a lot of spots in our town. And so the ad hoc committee could do a deeper dive and maybe meeting with the municipality. Karen said she had multiple departments that she reached out to that did not respond to her, which I feel like is very concerning. So I think we might want to, approach Anna Brawley and go from there, or the mayor's office, but again, an ad hoc committee could kind of do that work that we can't do this evening. So that was my thinking on that, Karen.
Sure. But with the existing CIP committee and the quick turnover that has to happen, I think ensuring that this area is explicit either in the Lakeshore Drive or as a new activity, since we're not getting traction on Lakeshore Drive, it would be a better outcome than just an exploratory committee.
Could be. I think they're wanting something done now, which isn't in sync with the CIP process.
Well, I'm not sure that anything is going to be done quickly. I mean, I've lived there. I've owned the property there that I'm at since 1976, and they've been going to work on it. Our area was supposed to be worked on. They worked down Wisconsin to Consolation, and supposedly the next summer they were supposed to come on down with sewer and water, redoing the lines, because our place, our house was the first house, the Stauber place there in the sixplex, and my brother-in-law's place and the Hillman place, it's all there together, were the first buildings in that area, and we're the only ones that have not gotten any improvements in our sewer and water since it was originally put in there. So that's been a longstanding problem, and they come in there, they worked all the way to Constellation. They started the project behind here where, that they just did last summer and made a huge mess. I mean, the water was way up. I was having to call the pump trucks every day to come and pump out the water because it was kind of running up in my yard. The poor people that were out trying to walk by had to wear ankle boots, or almost hip boots at times to even get by there. And I was having to call the doggone pump trucks and call on the municipality, begging them to come out and do something.
So we don't have the expectation that something will happen in short order because it's a long-standing problem, but we definitely want to make traction with the people who can make that happen. Maybe money has to be requested from the state. I mean, we just need to make progress. Long-standing problem with no correction for a long time. So yeah.
So is anybody what is the wish of the body at this point?
Yeah, I guess we'll do an ad hoc committee if that's the only thing that's being offered. Since I'll be on the CIP committee too, I will continue to advocate for this to actually just be put in as a CIP priority for Turnagain Community Council.
That sounds good. And we just like some help on it. And when it rains a lot, they're not working on the road up there this year. Now, we were going to have the snow runoff, but also when it rains really hard, we've had the water come across the lake, come across their dam they put up there to keep, and it comes across there. The water comes up past what they have there, and then it's really a problem. So we've got to call again to have the pump trucks come out.
Because they don't want the water coming out of the lake.
Yeah.
Okay, so who else wants to serve on this ad hoc committee to work with the neighbors representing Turnagain Community Council to, try and get some progress done short term versus looking longer term as well?
Well, I'll be on this committee.
Okay.
I'm not a civil engineer, but this needs some engineering help. And there's a drainage problem, and the water table is so high because of Lake Spenard and Lake Hood in this area but there's a way to possibly put in a grade to Wisconsin, and there are drainage. There are ways to drain it into Wisconsin that has the goes into the outfall into Fish Creek.
Well, that's what they told me when I called the airport. It used to go over across there was a gate at the end of right about where the lights are blinking up there now, to where if you're going around the lake, that area over there used to be a lake, and they filled that lake in. They used to drain the lake off there when it would get too high. And they promised us when they put the new fingers in there and they raised the level of the lake, because they could put more fingers and have more planes, that they would not, that we would continue to drain off the water. And the guy told me at the airport, because I called him and was complaining about the water coming over, and he said, "Oh no, I've been here 10 years and that promise was never made." And I said, "Well, where are you dumping the water?" "Well, we dump it out into Fish Creek." "Well, we can't jump." I said, "Well, then dump it out into Fish Creek. We're drowning over here." And he said, "No, we can't put that much in there because it's too much into Fish Creek and then other people will flood." Well, anyway.
Yeah. So this is a kind of level where an ad hoc committee can have those conversations again, representing Turnagain Community Council, And so I've got Karen and Dan. Anybody else?
Well, I'm Nancy. I'll be with her group.
Nancy and Karen McBride.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
The two of you could join as a single entity.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Nancy Stauber would like to join.
Excellent. Okay, so if you can provide TCC with all your contact information and you know, especially Karen, who is our vice president, then we'll get an update on progress if it's happened at our next meeting. So good luck and thank you so much for bringing this to our attention. We've heard from neighbors before of this problem. As you said, it's long term. And I don't know the solutions, but I'm thinking that somebody within the municipality has got to have something better than what they've given you so far. So I'm going to entertain a motion to extend, since we still have 2 items on the agenda under Land Use Committee. Would
So
anybody?
Move to 9:15. It's now 8:55.
To 9:15, is it, Dan, is that what you said?
Yes.
And do I have a second?
Second. Sandy had brought it up, so I think.
Second.
Sorry, I'm sorry.
Second.
And second
Sandy
is by
is seconding.
Sandy second.
Sandy.
Thank you, Sandy. Having trouble understanding here for a bit. So is there any objection to moving to extend to 9:15? Anybody? And I need help looking for hands. Is anybody raising their hand?
No objection.
No objection. Okay, so that passes. So we will now move on to Land Use Committee report. And John Isaacs, co-chair, I'll let you take the lead on both of these.
There's really not much more to say about Fish Creek Connection project right now. We have the election coming up. It's part of the bond issue. We haven't heard anything about the lawsuits either with the McCary estate at the north end or where a lawsuit might be with John Haxby on the south end. Things have been pretty quiet there. You know, our work is primarily focused on this interpretive committee. I think we still would like to take a close look of what they have in mind for the coastal trail relocation at the north end of the project. And, you know, we'll have to figure out how we approach the project team on that. But I think that's really pretty much the update for the Fish Creek Trail Connection project at this point in time, unless Kathy, you want to add anything?
No, I think that pretty well sums it up. We provided a lot of input on their 65% design. They're now at 75% design, and it was indicated to this last aesthetics invited participants meeting that Sandy and John and I are representing Turnagain on. And when I mentioned something about altering it at this point in time, it was like this is it. We're not doing any other changes, which I thought was odd if they're still at 75% instead of 100%. But I think any input that we feel is still appropriate, we should provide. But I think the extension of the relocation of the coastal trail is a good thing to focus on at this point.
Agreed.
So, okay, and with regard to transit supportive development overlay, TISDO.
So there's a number of things happening there, and I'll let Sandy sort of chime in. There has been nothing formally done with the mayor's pause, and there have been no meetings that have occurred since they paused it in October. We have been told by Graham Downey that they are putting together a scope of work for more community involvement that they're going to do after the election. We had a meeting with Cameron, and Sandy and I will talk about that in a minute, where Cameron kind of offered the opinion that they really wanted to have the pause and nothing done until after the election because they probably didn't want it as a political distraction. So 2 things were attached to this agenda. One was kind of an update of a fact sheet that we put together back in September of last year, and I updated it in terms of what came out of version 6 of TISDO. And then there was a product that came out of the a better solution for Anchorage Group, used to be called We Love Anchorage, which has representatives of South Addition, North Star, Rogers Park, Turnagain, Sand Lake, and probably a couple others. And they kind of put together their own fact sheet that they wanted to get out to people to make people aware of TISDO, and during the election to contact their representatives and give them their opinion on TISDO and ask where the representatives stand. And I know with the current candidates, Anna has been a bit cautious in her description of her position on TISDO not being a sponsor. She wants to see how things roll out. Brian Flynn has been more direct, saying that he does not support TISDO in its current form. So we've heard that. I think it's still not too late if people have questions to give their concerns to the candidates. One of the things that we're probably most concerned about is that after the election, there may be a move to introduce this to the assembly and potentially try to move it through fairly quickly. And so we have been lobbying some assembly members that if this does get introduced, we really would like them to slow it down for public involvement. And kind of on that basis, Sandy set up a meeting to brief Cameron, who really has not been involved in this. And Sandy and I and David Wigglesworth from the North Star area had a meeting with him to give him an update on TISDO. Sandy, are you still on? I don't know if I see him. There he is. Yeah.
Yes,
Sandy,
I'm here, John.
Would you like to add anything to sort of the meeting with Cameron and your thoughts there?
No, I think you've done a good job covering it, and I know it's late. I would just encourage anybody who's interested to download the documents that you and Kathy attached to the agenda, because those documents I think are helpful.
Yep.
And the one other thing I would add, and you can help me with the location, John, but I'll call it kind of the alternative housing group, will meet again on Monday the 6th at 6 p.m. and it's on 15th Avenue, John. Is it the Lutheran Church?
The church there on I think it's like 15th and N Street, if I'm not mistaken.
Right. And the point is that people are welcome. If anybody's interested to kind of learn more about what's going on and talk with other people, just show up this coming Monday, 6 p.m.
Yep. And one of the things we hear from some of the assembly people is if you don't like it, it's not good enough to tell us you don't like it. You need to give us an alternative. And sort of white paper has been developed by a couple of us that we share with Daniel Voland, we share with Cameron and some others, which says rather than put TISDO into the existing single-family, two-family neighborhoods, you really want to increase density and improve transit. Why don't you focus on the corridors like Spenard, like Fireweed, like Tudor, like some of the others, and really look at how can you increase the density in multifamily there. So we're trying to come up with a reasonable solution that says, let's work on that as a start rather than to sort of throw something against the wall broadly for all the neighborhoods that could have an impact. And even Cameron said, do you really think this is going to cause any harm? Do you think you're really going to see this in your neighborhood, in the next couple of years? And he was even a little bit skeptical that there would be adverse effects about this. But I think we've kind of convinced some of the public process is flawed. We've given him some alternatives to chew on. And I think we just want to make sure that this doesn't get introduced after the election and try to get rammed through.
Yeah. Thank you, both of you guys, for meeting with Cameron. And I think that that's something that we still need to be tracking to see where this is going to go after next Tuesday's election.
Yep.
So I'm glad you've touched base with him, and hopefully that will continue the discussion about. I think it's good that alternatives are being proposed, and probably the counter of, would this really ever, get as bad as you think it would, and affect single family homes and so forth, and that the documentation that was sent out with this meeting shows photos of, yes, it really can happen. Just when you think it would never happen, it can happen. And so anybody who is cognizant of what the potential density level would be, and also the on-site parking requirement eliminated, And
Yep.
any higher density would require on-site park or on-street parking is just an issue in itself that just doesn't make sense in so many areas. So thank you, both of you guys, for your work on this. And yeah, we'll just keep working at it, see what the results might end up being.
And your
Does
chairman,
anybody else have anything to share under land use or then generically before we adjourn?
or questions on TISDO, if anybody has any of that.
Yeah, sure. Anybody have any questions or input on TISDO? And again, I can't see everybody, so help me out with hands up. Anybody have any hands raised?
I don't think I see any hands raised.
Okay. Okay. And well then I'll ask now John and I we can put on our co-chair hats. Do you think dealing with the the beach the flooding at they're over by Spinard Lake and neighborhood, do you think that should just fall under land use committee oversight or that ad hoc committee with maybe Karen as chair?
I think
You can certainly dovetail however is needed.
I think maybe keep it as an ad hoc committee. I hate the load down the land use committee with too much stuff. And as long as people are interested in an ad hoc committee and they come up with some ideas, they can probably bring it before the council as a whole. But then again, I'm a little bit less formal about rules than others are.
Yeah.
This is drainage. It's not really land use. It's
Yeah, I think you have to be careful. Land use could become very broad. Like,
yeah,
exactly.
We need a trail committee and a.
Well, that's really a good question. There other community councils have other committees, and that may be something we want to think about at some point in the future. That do we have like a transportation committee so we can do things like Minnesota, a land use committee, maybe a trails committee. I think that's really kind of a good suggestion to consider, Sarah.
yeah. We used to have a trails committee
Hmm.
back in the day when there was a lot of stuff going on with the coastal trail.
Oh yeah, that goes way back. Way back. Sandy, you've got your hand raised.
Yeah, and I apologize if I haven't followed along on this issue, but one of the things that jumps out at me is is I would try to get somebody from street maintenance out to that location. At the same time, somebody from the airport and some of the residents, and because street maintenance may have a role to play in this. I don't know, but it's a thought.
Yeah. Karen McBride, I don't know if you heard what Sandy was just suggesting, but I'll follow up with her on that. Thank you, Sandy.
Okay, yeah, great idea. Okay. If anything, does anybody else want to share anything at this late hour, or I would entertain a motion to adjourn. Anybody have anything else they want to add?
I'll second that motion. This is Kathleen.
Well, I didn't make it. I was just pretending to have somebody make it.
I move we adjourn.
Thank you,
I
Dan.
second.
Hey, Kathleen.
Okay.
Good night.
Is there any objection to adjourning at 9:07 p.m.?
No. I'll miss you guys next month. I'll be out of town.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you, Sarah. Have a good one wherever you're going.
Yeah. Oh, I'll be on a birthday trip and a Mother's Day weekend. It's going to be a combo. So,
okay.
Mom wants to see Bruno Mars in concert. So, whatever Mom wants, she gets.
All right. That's
Yeah.
great. He's good. He's a good one. Okay, this meeting is now adjourned. Dan, don't cut off yet because I want to chat with you after everybody gets off. But thank you,
Bye.
everybody. Thank
Have
you.
a good night.
Bye,
Thank you.
everybody. Thank you very much for all your work.
Yes.
Thank you,
Ditto.
everyone.
Night.
Bye.
Good night, everybody. Okay, Dan.
Well, Jean's still on.
Oh, okay. I wanted to look at the chat room before you cut off, since I never know what all is on there, and sometimes there's no follow through to keep me informed. So if you don't mind, I'm going to look at the chat room and see if there's any. Let's see. Let me go clear to the beginning here. Okay.
My chat's not very good here.
Oh,
Okay.
I can read it, so no problem. Let's see.
Community council meeting, school board
So Mark
members.
Lesson, hello all, Mark Lesson with the team working on Romig West project here. We do anticipate receiving a matching grant to work on the Romig West Hill project. Hope to start work in, let me just write this down, Romig Hill Trails. If get Anchorage Park Foundation grant. So hope to start work in mid to late May. Okay. We're planning on a fundraising volunteer gathering at a neighbor's home sometime in early May. Plan for fundraising sometime in early May. Okay. If anyone is needing information regarding, let's see, regarding the project, time, date, and place of gathering and/or contribute either time, materials, or funds, contact Mark, Larsen, at his email, which I have, to donate, attend fundraiser, etc. Okay, so that is Romig Trail. So I'll stick that in that pile. And then let's see. Thank you so much, Jennifer. Website. Oh, who knew there was a website? Lake Hood defense removal.
Where are you at?
I'm scrolling down on chat. I don't, there's no reference on page 1, page 2, page 3. I'm just scrolling down. So now I'm writing down the information about airport website, airport project website for fence removal. And that is http://www Lake Hood fence removal, it's a long one, removal
Project.com.
Right, .com. Okay. Now what if I click on this PDF, is it gonna pop up?
Yeah. Oh, you mean that HTTP? Yeah, it'll pop up.
No, no, no. The next item under
Oh
the
yeah.
chat.
Yeah.
Is
Yeah.
that something we can save and copy?
You can download it.
Okay. So I'm
you see that little arrow?
Yes, and now I'm getting spinning wheel. Oh no, the arrow. Oh, the arrow.
Yeah, you see the arrow? That it'll download.
Save as ACN development projects. Let me rewrite or and I want to put it to wait. Let's put it on desktop and then let's see, let's go to TCC folder And then let's go to Lake Hood. And did I make a folder for the fence removal? I did. Okay. Oh no, that's not what I want to do. This would just be no, not Lake Hood. I want to go airport. Shoot. Airport
Projects.
well, yeah, I don't know.
26. Go.
I'm sorry. What, Dan?
I gotta go to the bathroom.
Oh my God. Okay, so I can't rush this, can I? I'll just save somewhere in, damn it. I'll just save somewhere. I don't know if I'll find it or not. We'll find out. Look for download.
I'll download it on my machine.
Okay, that'd be great too. And then let me just scroll down to see if there's anything else. Elections, bonds, info, don't need to say that. View, okay. Thank you, just means something that even to, okay, good point. I have to sign off. Anna Brawley, happy to volunteer for, oh, wait a minute. I'm happy to volunteer land use ad hoc committee. My phone is. Okay, and so Marcy, but I didn't get her last name. She didn't use her last name. 602-828-7102. Marcy on the flooding committee. Okay, and that was a good event. Thank you, Amanda. And let me just scroll down to see if there's anything else I'm interested in. That's it. Okay, you can sign off. I'm signing off now.
Okay.
Leave meeting.
Bye.